ruined me. Like I was done. So I get a job working at Winn-Dixie as a bag boy or whatever, and still high school, whatnot. I get the Kenwall RC10. I saved enough money and I get the Kenwall RC10. And I convinced my dad. I said, I bought this kid. I was like, let's go race some indoors, you know. And there was a track in Greensboro. Joe Stewart had a track in Greensboro, close to the airport, and went there to RC10. And for that race, my dad made this bucket. It was my dad and Bubba Ryan's dad, Frank Ryan. They made these tire buckets things, you know. This was, like I said, this was for anybody else had these damn things. But anyway, we were there. I did good at that race. Anthony Andrews was there, and this is when I met Scooter Motorsports, and this was Dave Evans. And at that race you had Dave Evans, Todd Hodge, Chris Bing, and Dean Kearns all came down, and they pitted beside me. And like, I would run, take my tires off, my dad would clean my tires. He would go blow my chassis out. If they had an air compressor, he'd blow my chassis out, and then I'd do the wrenching. And it was like, man, we connected again, you know. And Dave Evans saw us, and he saw how me and my dad were. And at the time on the East Coast, you only had like a handful of black people that raced RC cars. Like, it was me, Anthony Andrews, a cat named James Brown. I think he was out of Texas or maybe Florida. Mike D. That was Demetrius out of Atlanta. Anthony Andrews and Demetrius, they were out of Atlanta. Those were the only black people you had. And I didn't know this at the time, but my dad was sending out resumes of my finishes and stuff like that to like Low C and Associated and anybody he could get to sponsor me. He's like, hey, my kid's up and coming. He's been in this race. He's doing this. He's black kid. You know, there's not that many black kids that do it. Could you give us a sponsor, or could you help us out? I didn't know this. So we're there at the Greensboro Indoor State Championships, I want to say, NorCon State Championships at Greensboro. And I do well there. And Scooter Evans got in touch with my dad, and he sponsored me. And it was like, wow. Like, but he only gave me a 50% sponsor. And here's another thing. Here's another twist to it. I was running Associated. All them guys had Low C, and they all, Scooter had a contract or a deal with Low C, to where his whole team ran Low C. And guess what car they ran? The Double X. Yeah, so here I am with Associated Kenwall Edition RC10. And the whole time I'm on one team, they're trying to convince me, you need to switch to Low C, you need to switch to Low C. Went down after that race. You know, I'm 16, working. I paid for the hotel, my race entry to the South Carolina State Championships right after North Carolina. And I did so-so there. You know, my thing is, when I get focused, I don't talk that much. Like, you can, and I get in my own like bubble. Like, I don't talk, I don't see anybody. I get in a bad attitude, and my dad would get mad at me because I didn't even talk to him. Like, I would get so focused, like I gotta get these guys. Like, you know, don't get in my way. I gotta get these guys. So I did alright there, and he always was mad at me because of my attitude. He was like, you're not talkative, you talk too much to people. Go figure. You talk too much to people. You're not paying attention to your stuff, your equipment. Your equipment's not ready. And I'm thinking back then, as long as your battery's charged, you're ready. You know. So, South Carolina State Championships, I did all right. So I talked them into, if we went, like, if I paid my race entry, if he got the hotel and gas, if we could go to Savannah, Georgia for the Georgia State Championships, not the Nationals, State Championships. So we go down, racing RC10, the white turnbuckles, and here we are back to the turnbuckles. And Savannah had wood. Like, they didn't have pipe back then. They had wood. Like, they took, you know, pride in their track. Like, the wood was curved. They got the curved wood, and the wood was painted white. And, like, when you hit, like, it echoed through all the pits. So wherever you were sitting in Savannah, somebody hit the wall, you'd be like, ooh, ooh, like, you heard it. So we get down there, and the turnbuckle snapped off, and my attitude wasn't right. Well, my dad left me in Savannah. So my mom had to come down to Savannah, Georgia, and get me. And that's when I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it on my own, you know. So the following year rolls around. Dean Kearns went to the Worlds in Japan at Utabe Arena. There I was working at a shoe warehouse in Concord, North Carolina. Hot, blistering hot. There I was working. Nationals rolled around Savannah. I saved up all that money for my full-time job through the summer. I saved all that money and put it towards the Nationals. Went to the Nationals. I was like, oh my gosh, like, hey, y'all remember me from, you know, so-and-so? Like, hey, what's going on? Someone remember, someone just like, I don't remember you. Jason Rona, you know, it was nice to me then. Like I said, we were all kids then. Paul Wynn, he was another one that always raced Savannah. He was nice. We were all cool. J.R. Mitchell, we were all cool. Jason Brown, Bubba Ryan, we were all cool. Anthony Andrews. So I get to this race, and I didn't know parts were out, you know. So I get there for RC10, and Clyde Andrews is looking at my arm, and he's like, he's moving it back and forth, like back and forth, front to backwards, and I'm thinking, you know, yeah, it's got a little play, so the car's loose, you know, free moving. He's like, nah, man, that ain't gonna work, you know. And the Associated guys, Rick Howard and all them, they had the B2 at the time. And Anthony Andrews was sponsored by Peak Motors, which was Rick Howard's company, and we all went out to eat and everything, and they were talking how far advanced the B2 was and all that. And yeah, my RC10, the parts, the arms just was so sloppy on this thing, and oh my god, like, I didn't know how meticulous their build was. Like, I didn't know, like, it was on another level how meticulous their build was. Like, I didn't know what a reamer was. Like, I just thought you put the hinge pin in and force it in or whatnot, and you went. These guys were switching out their arms and, you know, the front block and the rear blocks just about after every day. Changing shock oils after every run. Just stuff like that. And I didn't know, but it opened my eyes. And my mom drove me down to the Nationals, and she dropped me off, and Anthony Andrews and his dad drove me back and forth to the track. And my sponsors, Scooter Motorsports, had no idea. No idea. And at the time, they were telling me, hey, you need to quit hanging out with that Anthony Andrews guy. You need to quit hanging out. I'm sitting thinking, nah, that's my friend, and that's my ride to the track. Y'all didn't notice my dad's not here? Like, I'm here. So, came back, and here's what the thing was. My mom drove me down, dropped me off. My dad came and picked me up in Savannah, and he saw it, and he was just like, wow, you did it. Like, you saved your money and you did it. You did it. And drove back, and that Christmas we got the B2 and the T2, and we bought, like, ever since then, like, I could have got my kits from Scooter Motorsports 50% off, but I bought my kits always from like hobby stores and whatnot. And we bought the B2 and the T2 from Hobby Stop, which is in Rock Hill, South Carolina. They're no longer around. They just closed this past year. But we bought the kits from them. And my dad helped me put these kits together. Like, we worked side by side, just like Masami and his dad. We worked side by side in building these kits. And, you know, I didn't know at the time, but my dad's still sending resumes out, you know. So, 96 or so, I wrote a letter to Cliff Lett, and I said, what do you, like, I want to come work for Associated. What do you need? Like, what kind of schooling? Like, what do you recommend? Like, I'm entering college, what do you recommend?